Live. Can you see me now?
Nope.
This never happened before. Oh well, but I'm here. Okay, everybody, this is Fran Lewis, what's left of her on MJ Network. MJ in memory of my sister Marcia Joyce, who started me on this road to whatever. And we have Alan Jacobson here, and the book is, it's right in my hand, Die Trying.
Yes.
And my dermatologist gets them, but he's not getting this one. So this is the fifth OPSIC Team Black series. What is OPSIC and what is its role in Die Trying?
So OPSIG is Operation Support Intelligence Group, and it's a group of uh, covert operatives. So they perform black ops operations that support the government across the world, but no one can know about them. It's
Well,
akin to the way the Navy SEALs were back before anybody knew the Navy SEALs existed. Um, and it's not quite as military based as the SEALs are. They do a lot of plainclothes work,
ooh,
and when needed, they go full on military. But a lot of their missions entail plainclothes operations, uh, infiltration, and behind the scenes sabotage and that type of thing. So it's a tremendously fun series, fun for me to write, fun for the reader to read and enjoy.
well, for those of you that haven't read Karen Vale, you better start from the beginning. Because you got to let you know, oh, she's in pot. Oh, God. You opened Die Trying with Karen Vale involved in a special training exercise in Mississippi. What was she training for and what was her goal? And nobody messes with her because that would be a mistake.
So Karen Vale is the other series that I write, although Karen was brought into the OPSIG universe back in the fifth uh, Karen Vale novel titled No
Mm.
Way Out, which was set in England. And she's pulled into the group begrudgingly. She doesn't realize what's happening until she realizes that what she went there to investigate in No Way Out turned into a covert op on behalf of the U.S. government. So she's pulled into this group, and she periodically works with them. And that's actually akin to how a lot of SWAT teams operate
Yeah.
across the country, because SWAT teams are not needed 24/7 in a lot of cities across the United States. So what they do is they train, they have other jobs within the police department, and when there is a need, they are pulled out and coalesce as this team. So that's how OPSIC works relative to Karen Vale. OPSIC functions as a fully operational group within the Pentagon, but they pull these specialists when needed to perform missions on behalf of the group. So Karen Vale is one of these part timers, and she is trained as an FBI agent. So they quarterly have her go through these additional training maneuvers to become a full on operator, to learn the skill set that a covert operator needs out in the field. So that's what this scene is about. It's showing us some of the training that she has to engage in. It's Karen Vale, so things don't go as planned. And this scene that opens Die Trying is one of those examples of Karen Vale being Karen Vale. Uh, she's a terrific profiler. She adds a lot to the OPSIC team, but it would be a boring book if nothing happened, if everything went according to plan. So things rarely go according to plan, kind of the way life is, right? My
Tell me
grandmother,
about
yeah,
it.
exactly. We all know that. My grandmother was fond of saying, "Man plans and God laughs," and that's kind of the way I approach all my novels in the Karen Vale series and the Opposite Team Black series.
I just was, my sister started me on this in 2009 when she told me I look like a couch potato. I did. I was 200 pounds, but it was from a medication, whatever. So I lost all the weight. And then she said, "Why don't you write a book?" I said, "You're going to be sorry." So I wrote the three books based on us growing up in the South Bronx. And she's Myrtle and I'm Bertha. And she hated me after that. Because, when you tell the truth, what could I say? So, yeah, she started me. So in chapter two, we meet Aaron Uziel. Who is he and what's his role in the FBI? I like
So
that character.
yeah, yeah, I had a lot of after um, Hard Target, which is the second OPSEC novel, when I introduced Uzi, as he's known. I had a lot of reader requests for more books with Uzi.
Yeah, me too.
So as Die Trying opens, and I apologize, my voice from allergies is quite bad, so I have a cough drop in my mouth. But in Die Trying, uh, Uzi has been promoted to the special agent in charge of the Joint Terrorism Task Force in the Washington field office of the FBI. It's a big job. It's an important job. As you can imagine, uh, counterterrorism is a major concern in Washington, D.C. It's the seat of our government, the
Mm,
national capital. So, second to New York, the New York Field Division, Washington is the largest field division in the country for good reason. It's also a few blocks from headquarters, or at least where headquarters presently is. We'll see where the director takes that. But so Uzi's in charge of the Joint Terrorism Task Force, and the JTTF, as it's known, is composed of um, dozens of law enforcement personnel across a wide swath of law enforcement agencies in the region, each region. So each of the 55 field offices across the country has a JTTF. And basically, the concept is to bring together the intel and expertise of all these agencies in a region so that they can pool their resources and know what's going on a counterterrorism basis. And it's enormously successful. It has been, and it will continue to be. One of the failures that led to 9/11 was the lack of
mm.
coordination of intel that um, different agencies had, and had they put their heads together and uh,
Yeah, I know.
yeah. So in any case, JTTF, that's what they do, and Uzi heads up this division within inside the Washington field office. He's also a part-time OPSEC Team
I
Black
love this guy. I
operative.
know I was in school when 9/11 happened and we were all sent home. The sad part is I lost my student in 9/11.
Oh
When I,
wow.
when I met her grandmother in September, right after my birthday, and she said to me, "Janine died," I cried. I've been crying ever since. So to keep her memory, every 9/11 I do a dedication and a poem and her picture on my Facebook wall and on her dignity wall so that everybody knows that she exists. She was in my class for 3 years
Wow.
and she had a personality like it would have, she was a trip and a half. So if I figure, nobody keeps her alive, I did. So we've got Uzi. Why does he have a nightmare? And the character that, Hector, I don't know. I picked
Hector's
that up
another
real
one.
fast.
Hector's another one of these
You gotta like him, even though he's whatever.
he is a special guy, special character. Would go to the mat for you, so to speak. He is a member of OPSEC Team Black, a permanent member. He has a very interesting history and family, as we've learned throughout the OPSEC Team Black series. And Die Trying brings this, to the forefront again. His background, his expertise, his family all become very significant in the plot of Die Trying. And Hector DeSantos is his full name. And DeSantos, the question was relative to Uzi's nightmare. So let's go back to that. Uzi has a nightmare at the onset, the beginning chapters of Die Trying. He is dreaming about his wife and daughter, who formed the jumping off point for Hard Target. That was an initial aspect of the storyline of Hard Target, and the gist of what we learn, because this happened years before Hard Target began. The gist of it is that his wife and daughter were murdered by a terrorist that was trying to get revenge against something that he did while a member of Mossad. Uzi's history and backstory is very interesting. He was an intelligence agent with Mossad and the Shin Bet, which is the secret service, so to speak, in Israel. And so his backstory is very interesting. And he was brought on to the FBI by the director personally through contacts and back channels. Even Uzi did not know that the director knew who he was, or I should say, what his background was. That comes out in Hard Target. So I don't want to disclose too much without going into that.
No, don't give it away, because I want people to read this. I have it all over. I very rarely post my streams on Facebook, ever. So I posted that you were coming on. And you know what the most gratifying is? My students love me. They're on Facebook, all of them.
Oh, that's wonderful.
They're activists, they're teachers, they're lawyers, they're doctors. One of them is my podiatrist that I'm going to tomorrow. So they're all there. They actually commented. They never comment on anything. People on Facebook, I find, are very negative and nasty. They don't say anything nice. I said, but they better say something nice about my thing. And like I said, I'm getting a whole lot of people that once I post your thing on LinkedIn, you're going to get a whole bunch of reviews. I'm impressed with myself. So so tell us about Dana and Maya. Why are they important? And the other character, Mohammed Al Fahad.
Yeah. So
yes.
These are very important.
He's hot stuff, that one.
Yeah. So Dina and Maya, so Dina was Uzi's wife and Maya was his daughter, young daughter. At the time of Hard Target, we learned that those two were the ones that were murdered. And Mo, or Mohammed El Fahad. Mo is a Palestinian who works for the CIA as an operative, covert operative. And we've met Mo before throughout the series. So Mo sits on the Joint Terrorism Task Force as a CIA representative. And Mo gets a call just as they're about to go into a JTTF meeting. And this call is from one of his CIs with some intel that is eye-opening and at the same time disturbing. And he pulls Uzi aside because it's something that Uzi needs to know. And basically he says that a reputable informant, confidential informant, has information that Uzi's wife and daughter were spotted. And Uzi's like, what do you mean they were spotted? They were murdered 13 years ago. I can't remember. Yeah, I think it was 13 years ago. Um, how could that possibly, what are you talking
Yeah.
about? So it sets in motion the uh, events that basically form the core of what is going to be the jumping off point for die trying. And well, let's just leave it at that. I don't want to
That's
disclose.
good. So
Yeah.
now we got another character that I really like. His Uncle Herb. He contacts him, and who did Uzi ask permission? And how does that turn out? Everybody needs permission for something,
Everybody needs permission for something. That is
except when
correct.
I don't listen to it.
Well, that seems to be the order of the day these days.
That's
Um,
right.
so Uncle Herb, I is kind of modeled after somebody that I knew loosely, a neighbor, next door neighbor that I had growing up in New York, and he's a judge in Israel, and it's somebody that was very close to Uzi's family, a next door neighbor growing up, and Uzi was told to call him Uncle Herb. So Uzi thinks, well, I've got this intel that my wife and daughter are still alive, but they were buried. Uh,
Yeah.
the easiest thing to do, other than flying to overseas and having to try to get time off from work after he was just promoted, he says, "Oh, why don't we try to exhume their bodies, or at least one of them, and see if their body is in the coffin, right?" Well, it turns out that's not so easy. And he calls Uncle Herb, who, as I said, is a judge in Israel, and he says, "Uncle Herb, can you tell me what the process is? How do I do this? So on and so forth." And so that's who Uncle Herb is. It's a sobering conversation for Uzi, and sometimes the easiest solutions are not the ones that work out for us.
They had to do that with my aunt
Oh, really?
because yeah, if I didn't see it, with my cousin called me on FaceTime, and I said, "Why are they opening up Aunt Betty's grave?" Because the stone was missing and the casket was open and the grass on the top was gone. So I was sitting there. They opened the grave to see, she had just died a couple of months before, to see if she was in there. And I had to look at this, and then I had to, because I'm in charge of the cemetery for my family. I hit the roof. They closed the grave, and I screamed at the people that owned the cemetery. I said, "How could you be so stupid to have your foundation like that?" "Well, it only happens at your cemetery. You're so incompetent." I said, "You're not charging them for their unveiling, and you're not charging them for their foundation, or I'm going to the cemetery board," which I did. They wound up not having to pay. Oh, if it didn't happen, it might say I wouldn't have even believed. Oh yeah, without a doubt. Everything that could go wrong there goes. So I cracked up laughing. So now
Hush.
we've got two more characters: Douglas Knox and Gideon Ezeal and Tamar. Those three are my next victims. Until we
Well,
get to the president, I'm not sure
so
about him either.
yeah, yeah. So Douglas Knox is a character who has really been in both the Caronville universe and the Opposite Team
Yeah.
Black universe for many years, since my second novel, since The Hunted, which was the first Opposite Team Black novel. And he's the FBI director. He also has a very interesting background that led to him co-founding the OPSIC Team Black team. Actually, OPSIG Team Black is just one of the teams, but Operation Support Intelligence Group is his baby, and I wouldn't say he runs it, but he has a hand in things that happen relative to OPSIG. And, when there's a problem and OPSIC is threatened, we get a dose of Douglas Knox. And he's a fun character to write. Because he's got a lot of competing interests that are tugging at him, and he's got the FBI to run, which, as we know, is beholden to the law, and has a thousands page long manual of operational procedure that he has to
That's hard.
Right. But at the same time, OPSIG is the complete opposite of the FBI in that they don't
I like them better, though. They're more fun.
Exactly.
Exactly. They're more exciting and boring than the FBI.
That's how
what's happening in the news. I worry about the FBI.
Well, the FBI is composed of agents who deeply care about doing the right thing and
I know
leading their jobs. And what you probably don't know, Fran, is that I am an FBI ambassador, and so
that's good.
I am out in the community talking about the Bureau, acting as a liaison, educating, so on and so forth. So I know a lot of the agents. I know a lot of the support personnel. And because the FBI is composed not just of the law enforcement agents, but the analysts and the intelligence individuals who are researching and providing leads and critical information to the agents who are out in the field, doing the face forward and dangerous job.
It's a hard job, and people don't appreciate it. That's what gets me. They don't appreciate what people do.
I agree, and that's part of the role as ambassador that that we, all of the ambassadors, perform is to make people aware of what the Bureau does, the wins that it gets because it doesn't toot its own horn, and help provide information to the community on how they can stay safe. So to get back to your question, Gideon Axel has been in the OPSIC Team Black series universe since Hard Target. That's when he was introduced. Pretty major character in that novel. He is the Director General of Mossad. That played a very interesting and pivotal role in the storyline of Hard Target. He and Uzi have a complicated relationship, which becomes much more apparent in Die Trying. And we frankly see a side of Gideon Axel that we have not seen before as it pertains to Uzi. And the last person you asked about is Tamar Gur. And Tamar was intimately involved in the story years ago. And I don't want to go into too much relative to Die Trying.
No, don't say anything.
But Tamar does play a pivotal role in the story relative to Uzi trying to figure out
this is why I've been told, yeah. Okay, now the character that I really loved that got criticized, but I thought was great, was President Nunn. The president, yeah, he reminds me of so many presidents. So how did you create him? He reminded me of a whole lot of other people. I won't say who, But I did get it. Wait a minute, he did that. He did that. He did that. And of course, the way he outlined what he was going to do, I'm sure the president today doesn't even know how to outline his own name.
So President Nunn, to
Yeah,
set
right
the
now.
record straight, because there are going to be people who say exactly what you just said, and
Yeah,
I knew that would be the case, and I wrote a little author's forward for people to understand that my goal as an author is to tell a compelling story, is to
yeah,
entertain them, to create engaging characters that keeps them turning the pages, that keeps them wanting more. I have no political agenda or
yeah,
agendas. Um, that's not why I write my novels, and that it would be silly to do that. Even though there are some authors that do, admittedly,
yeah,
and that works for them. For me, I why would I want to alienate a chunk of my readership by saying, oh, I'm pro this or pro that. So I don't write my novels for political basis. It's to entertain. So with that said, President Nunn was a creation back in 2000, around 2000. I have to go back and look at my old outlines, because I started outlining Hard Target, which was a story from which President Vance Nunn, I mean, that made it worse, is that his first,
yeah.
the vice president's
I
last,
know. God help us.
it's the way it goes. Some people say I have a crystal ball. And, I don't have a crystal ball, but I do put two and two together. And I kind of, the most important thing that we authors say is, what if? I mean, that is our jumping off point for so many things and so many ideas that we have. Well, what if this happens? What if that? What if this person does this? What if this
That's
person
right.
is that? So when constructing my ideas and my plots and my characters, the what if scenario plays an integral role. And so if we go back to 2000, the early 2000s, when I was writing the first draft of Hard Target, I created a president and a vice president, and this was kind of like my secret as to who they are throughout really the series. And people see what they want to see regardless of what I say, and I realize
Yeah,
that, because I had a, a reader once say, I left a review, and he goes, "Oh, obviously, President Rush, who was the president in Hard Target, is a Democrat," and he wasn't, but in his mind, President Obama, he was president at the time. So clearly I was writing about the present day president, and I wasn't. And if this guy had been a sharper reader, perhaps he would have picked up on things from a prior book that showed that this guy was not a Democrat. But again, people see what they want to see, what they think they're seeing. It's not. These are all constructs of my imagination. Now, that said, there are things that, as I said, I kind of have a tendency to foresee, because I put two and two together, and the what if question and scenario comes into play, and I make up my fiction, right? Well, sometimes that fiction comes true. And sometimes I use facts to prop up my fiction. So that's actually fun for me, because what that does is it brings it into the present for people, where they say, oh, I heard about that. I
yeah,
remember that happening. And it may not even be something that's conscious to them. It's just, maybe it's subconscious. And it brings a sense of verisimilitude, of reality, of truth to the pages, both in character and story. So Vance Nunn existed well before Donald Trump became, I mean,
Thank
with
God.
Trump at the time that I created this whole hard target, die trying storyline was he owned Miss America pageants, and he was a real estate developer. He had nothing to do with the presidency. So coincidence, a dash of truth and reality to prop up my fiction, and some great what if scenario foresight. That's the formula I used.
Well, I have to tell you, a couple of years ago, there was two authors that asked me to review two of Donald Trump's books. Yeah, and Ivanka's too. I was like, I did review two of them and I didn't post them. They were not bad. The last one that he wrote was about 2 years ago, and they said, "Would you review it?" I said, I will never review anything by him ever. It was so contrary to every president. It was so disrespectful. I read it. I said, I just passed on it. So I do know. Now, this part gets interesting. We've got Uzi and Santos, and they go to Israel while Karen Vale is doing something else with her friend Alexandra. But before I forget, Monday, one of the most popular authors in the world, Stephen Manchester, and Jeff Lowry will be here with You Will Be Peter. Now, someone we all know and love, Brian Silverman, will be here on Wednesday with Calypso Blue. And on the 9th, John Gilstrap with Building Bridges. I like, yeah. And on the 11th, Bonnie Chamor and R.G. Belsky will be here with Swipe. And there's a whole lot more that's coming in August. I skipped July. I use that just to get my brain together. And then we have August, and I have one on October 31st, Ashley Fontaine and Sarah Ems, Eternal Beauty. It's different. You never know what I'm going to get. So, what they were in Israel, and what were they doing? And tell us about Benny. I like Benny. And his role in Die Trying.
So Uzi decides that he has to
Yeah.
either verify this intel about his wife and daughter or eliminate it. And I mean, he can't go on with his life thinking that this could be
Yeah, I
true.
know.
I actually sat and thought about this for a while because, if you get news like this, what do you do? I mean, how do you handle it? How do you deal with it as a person? And I can only say, how it would impact me. I wouldn't be able to stop thinking about it. So in that respect, I thought, okay, this does make sense for Uzi to make this decision
Yeah.
to go in search of any information that he can obtain. And Mo's El Fahad's contacts were in Israel, so that's where they go to look into it. And DeSantos, who is not only Uzi's partner in OPSEG but longtime friend, close friend, says, "Well, I'm going with you. This is not an official OPSEG mission, clearly, but this is what friends do, and we can't use the resources of the government, but they're black operators, they're covert operators. They often are off the grid and have to make do with what they have, and so that's what they do. And it's Uzi, having lived there many years ago, still has friends and contacts there, and Benny is one of those people. And Benny is he was a fun character to write because he's kind of like, I won't say typical, but he's very Israeli. He smokes. He's a terrible driver. Um, he knows people who know people, and it's a small country, relatively speaking, and there's a lot of people who know people, or know people who know people that can get you where you need to go, or some information you might need. So Benny kind of is the is a close old friend of Uzi's, and is kind of the linchpin for some things that Uzi does not have present day access to, because it's been a long time since Uzi lived and operated in Israel. So in Mossad. So that's Benny's role. He he plays a very, very significant role in many ways, in terms of importance to Uzi. And yeah, so I don't want to say any much more, but he's a great character.
It's great. My family lived in Israel.
Oh,
My grandfather's, my cousin, her name was Tzipora, like mine in Hebrew. And Tzipora and I were, until she joined, she was in the army. She married a
yeah.
commanding officer. I know what happened. And we used to write letters back and forth on these little green areogram things. And I still have
Oh,
them. Yeah. She
yeah.
said to us,
The
like
old
I said,
airmail.
like, what is that? I wasn't old. I didn't even know what they were. But I missed her. And then we grew up together. My grandfather's brother lived in Israel. Now my grandfather's family lives in England. So ever so often they'll say hi. And his uncle is 102 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, so he's there. So it's like really when you were in Israel. So it takes place in Israel, involves a terrorist group we met in Hard Target. That just proves I read it. Haha. Now, what happened on October 7th was tragic. 2023. Did that
Yeah.
have any effect on your writing?
Uh, no, because I had finished the first draft
Yeah,
of trying just before October 7th, and I sat down and I thought, what do you do with this?
yeah.
That was akin to a dozen 9/11s in America. I mean, uh, yeah. I mean, I actually, Fran, you may recall, you probably don't recall because you do a ton of these interviews, but back when we talked about Spectrum, which was the sixth Karen Vale novel, I had to make the decision of whether or not I wanted to include 9/11
I'm
in
glad
that
you
story.
didn't. I'm glad
And
you
I did,
didn't.
right. And my editor told me not to. He said, "No, Alan, don't go there. It's."
No, I'm glad you didn't.
And uh so, I didn't in the case, I did in the case of Spectrum. In Die Trying, uh I didn't, and there was a very very important difference between the two novels and the decisions that I made. One is Spectrum takes place across a spectrum of years.
I read that too.
Yes. Um, and, you know, for me to skip Karen Vale's uh, experience in New York City uh, at the time of 9/11 would have been, in my opinion, a cop out and just plain wrong. And it would have created a hole in the story and a hole in Karen Vale. And I turned into something that had tremendous impact and meaning to Vale. And as you said, as you were glad that I did it, I'm glad I did it. This was different scenario with Die Trying. It did not have an impact, would not have had an impact on the story. Certainly would have been too difficult to write about, because
Yeah,
it just happened. I mean, it would be like writing about 9/11 on September 12th. It just, you didn't know what was going on. You didn't understand. You didn't have perspective. You didn't know what was going to come after.
yeah,
So,
I know.
so there would have been no good way for me to do that. So I decided to leave Die Trying as it was, um, and not integrate it or anything, the aftermath. Leave it. I left it out of Die Trying.
Well, that's probably why I sat down and read it. I've been getting Austrian a lot. And then I went to the eye doctor the other day. And go, my eyes are killing me. That's because you read. I read Baldacci's book they sent me, and Daniel Silver's book, and one other I read them all in one day, which was really not smart because over 2,000 pages. It didn't even take me that long to read it, and I go the next day I had to take a couple of pain pills. What can I say?
You're extraordinary, Fran. I don't know how
I
you
know
do
my mother made me read 10 books a week and take notes, so that's why there's a character that you brought in that I didn't get a chance to talk about, and that's her boyfriend, Robbie.
Oh, Robbie. Robbie is
Yeah,
another one of
I
those
love that
characters.
guy. He puts up with a lot, and he does
Yes,
take care of her. Yeah, he puts up with a lot. So before we find out what's next for them, you brought him in. I go like, finally, get to know him. I really love him. There are days that Karen Vale needs to take a back seat there, people.
yes. Yeah, Robbie, he's one of those characters that readers say, we want more of Robbie. When is he going to get a
Yeah,
book?
I said that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you said that too. That's right. Um, and yeah, he plays an important role in Die
In this one,
Trying.
yeah.
He's a DEA agent, and I've done a lot of work with the DEA. Have tremendous respect
Yeah.
for agents and support personnel as well, because again, you have the front-facing agents out in the field, but you have a whole operation behind the scenes in the lab and support personnel and intel and doing what they need to do with drug enforcement. And so Robbie is a byproduct of that. He's been in the series since the first Karen Vale novel, which was The Seventh Victim, and he's been in every one of my novels, I believe, since then. And yes, I am planning the next Karen Vale novel.
Oh, good. When?
Well, I'm outlining it now,
Oh,
so
good.
I should start writing it fairly soon. Actually, that's not true. I wrote parts of it already, just some chapters here and there, because that's what I do. As I'm outlining, a scene comes to me. Instead of saying, "Oh, I'll write this later when I get to it," I sit down and I actually just write the scene. And
Yeah.
if I need to rewrite it later, I do. But sometimes it is as simple as copy and paste into the novel as I hit that point in my outline, and it's just perfect. So I have written some scenes here and there, but I should start writing it soon. And it's different in terms of the case that she has to deal with.
Oh, good.
I'm very excited about it, which I am with each of the novels I write. And that excitement comes through on the pages and, in the characters and so on and so forth. So only once, Fran, did I stand behind my words. I have said it many times in conferences where if I was outlining or writing a book and it wasn't working for me, I would stop and I would
Me
scrap it.
too.
I'd say starting from scratch and here we go. And I did have to do that once. And I'm glad I did, because it led to me writing Inmate 1577, which was the fourth Karen Vale novel, which is perhaps a lot of readers' favorite Karen Vale novel, but it was definitely one of the most enjoyable and fun to read, set on Alcatraz, which actually made the headlines a few weeks ago, where the president wanted to resurrect Alcatraz and make it a federal penitentiary again.
Oh, God.
Oh, you didn't hear about that? Yeah,
No. You're
yeah,
brave, let me tell you.
that was an interesting soundbite, which turned out to be more than just a soundbite, but certainly got my eyebrows raised because I know Alcatraz so well. I spent a lot of time there writing Inmate 1577, and I know the state of of the island, of the infrastructure. Basically, almost nothing is salvageable there. Zero. I mean, nothing. The National Park Service spends a tremendous amount of money, which it gets from the fees that it collects for people all over the world to come and visit it and experience it. But they spend just tremendous amounts of money to just keep it open and operating and safe for
Yeah, I
people.
know. It doesn't sound too safe for people that are on the news now. It's it's
No,
it's
it's yeah, it's not that's not a
especially with the garden sinking. That's even worse. I
yeah,
do feel sorry for them.
yeah.
I bowled in I bowled. I was a telemarketer. I don't know why my brother made me do this. And one of the leagues were the Eastchester men. They were all guards in Rikers Island. It was scary. Oh,
Tough.
yeah, they used to pick on me. So when I walked by, one of them said, well, we can come and visit the island. We're more than happy to have you there. I go, and why is that? Oh, you're adorable. I go, thank you so much.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Oh yeah.
they were horrible. What can I say? But before I forget, this just came out. My new, oh, you can't see it. Inverted Reality is my new horror.
Oh.
Yes, it's out. I've sold over 100 copies. It came out on Saturday. It's all horror. It's every story. There's a bad person, and they get a consequence that you don't want. And the first one is called The Mirror. It was supposed to be called The Looking Glass, but my publisher screwed it up. It's called The Mirror. If you do the wrong thing, you become a permanent face in the mirror, reliving your bad deed forever. Yes, we have What If, Wrongly
Yeah.
Accused, Accusations, Silent Voices, the true stories of my grandmothers, Silence. And the last one was supposed to be the third choice. They made it the third choice you don't want. There are two people. What happens is if you don't do the right thing, the choice is made by you don't want to know who. It's pure horror, and people are reading it. And I was very honored because I sent copies to my optometrist's office yesterday, and they called me to say they stopped seeing patients so they could read the book. So where
That's-
can everybody learn more about your series? And you got to tell me, make sure I get the book so I can put you in my stream next time.
they sent you the book.
No, the next one.
Oh oh yes, the new one. Yeah,
The
yeah.
next one, I
Uh,
have to get that. Yeah.
actually, I have a title, but I cannot disclose it. But it's
Uh-oh.
the Karen Vale number 9. Yeah. Um,
Wow.
well, that's not the title, but that's what it will be.
I know.
Uh, yeah. So my website, alanjacobson.com, ALAN and JACOBSON.com. I'm on Instagram, alan.jacobson, spelled the same way, Threads, and Facebook, fans of alanjacobson.com. You can do it that way. Or what else? That's
Oh,
probably
I'm on X. I don't know how I got there. And my other publisher put me on TikTok, which I don't put anything on. But I put myself on Blue Sky. I'm not crazy about that either. But
yeah.
sometimes I post things on it. But I can actually say, I just received a message from YouTube. This is live on YouTube. So you'll get to see me.